building your A team. Um, this is pretty simple slide. Who are they? If we're talking about your A team, for those that have done mentorships, often Wealth Mentor had introduced some of these. So, property accountant, Matt Harris, by the way, is our property accountant. We obviously, being in Australia, we very much needed to leverage off introductions and references. So, PTR have been our long-serving property accountant. Obviously, you got your mortgage broker and solicitor. They're your key business A team. So they're the ones that you need to be talking to with regards to everything about your business. And then there's, I guess, those that are on the ground in the area. So property manager, the contractors that you might be using as I call it manufacturing growth. So as you're buying property and then improving them or manufacturing that value, and then the property agents. For us, in our early stages as a buy and hold strategy, which is what we chose, I would see my property manager as probably the most important person in my A team, because they're responsible for cash flow. They're responsible for my income. Obviously, if you were flipping, I guess property agents would be, more of your sort of go-to in that stage. But that's who I would define as your A team. And so how do you find them? The lazy way. I'm always I'm a big advocate. Someone once said to me, give the laziest person the hardest job and they'll find the easiest way to do it. I really try to live by that. If I can find the easy way to do something, I think that's actually smart. And that's what I keep telling myself, which is how I possibly married an Air Force pilot. I'm my own best, what do you call it, advocate, maybe. So yeah, look, leverage off your community, leverage off organizations where you can. Referrals and recommendations are obviously a part of that. And then beyond that, reputation. So, and when I'm talking about referral and recommendation, we've had a few instances where we've had to change builders, for example, as in 5 years, like trying to maintain the same one preferred supplier is difficult. So, when you get to that point where you've got to transition, the first thing I would start doing is, I talk to my property manager in that case. I'm like, who do you use? Who do you recommend? Or it might even be asking the builder themselves. And we've had some challenges. I guess one of our builders, unfortunately, had a sudden heart attack and passed away a month before a $250,000 project was due to be completed. And so in that process, you're like, well, I can't ask them who they recommend, but you want to try and find a way to to get through that process. So yeah, we obviously look at reputation in an area. Proven track record. I talk a lot about proven track record. That it's really important, not only, I guess, to you as an investor, but those that you're investing in, and that includes investing the time to work with. Proven track record speaks for itself. If people have a lot of successful projects, or they're doing a lot of work, then generally they have an integrity, and they also have the systems and processes. We're all businesses in a sense, and so this is business to business interaction. So looking at how well a business is operating, if they're really busy, that often is a sign that they've got good reputation, and they're consistently delivering results. So I would look for those results as a way to indicate a business that has good, I guess, good operating procedures, and then quote or trial. People and businesses reveal themselves in the way they act. If you're having to, continually follow up with someone, like they're not proactive, or they're not following up, or they've said they're going to do something and then they're not, they haven't done it, that reveals, I guess, part of their business, and you can make a judgment on that. Quoting, when you do get quotes, how eager someone is to have your business can be an indicator. And it can be a double-edged sword too. If people aren't getting back to you with quotes, it can be because they are so busy, because they're successful. The other option there, trial, is start small. Start giving small projects. Don't give, if someone's not yet a proven resource or business for you, give them one or two of the businesses. And we did this with property managers. We didn't want to have all of our eggs in one basket, so we would, when we bought a new property, there was an occasion where someone had made a recommendation or referral, but they weren't proven to us. So we'd give them a property, spread a little bit of our risk, know that if one fell over, we'd already started to build a relationship with another. So you can sort of spread your risk, or you can start to build relationships with multiple providers or suppliers parallel to each other, without necessarily having to rip your business from one to another. And we all know how some of those conversations can go. So, and leadership. This is, I talk about leadership because you as a property investor, and I guess I'm assuming for the most part that people here have been through the mentorships and have your own business, or are certainly looking to start that. You're a leader. You're the leader of your own business, and leadership is really important. People are attracted. Great people are surrounded by great people, and it's not really deliberate. It just happens that way. And leadership is one of the, I guess, the key characters that people get attracted to. So your leadership is as much a way to, is much an influence on who is doing business with you, who will work with you, and how they respond to you, as much as anything else that you might be doing, i.e. the lure of the dollars. So good communication, naturally, it's that goes without saying. With good leadership is about respecting the skills and experience. I'm not a builder. I'm not a property manager. And so when you're talking to those people, they're the expert, and treat them as such in the questions that you're asking. And that then leads on to empowering them, to encouraging them. When it's a builder, I would say, hey, look, these are our goals. And that's good communication. We would clearly articulate what we wanted from the project, but I would empower the builder and encourage them. I'm like, look, if you can see an opportunity, either an efficiency or something that would add value, encourage them to bring that to you. Builders are notorious, and sorry, Tim, because I know you operate in this space, but they're notorious for seeing a project and seeing everything that needs to be done. So although you might be encouraging them to bring that stuff to it, it doesn't necessarily mean you've got to say, yeah, because often the builder will be like, oh, you can do this, really needs to be done, this really needs to be done. And I would then say, am I going to get a return on investment for it? Because yes, it might need to be done, but if I can't get a value add from it, then it might not be the right. So there's a balance in that. But when it comes to property management, for example, or the agents, I'm going to empower them to take their best judgment about whether they're the right tenant. I'm not on the ground, and I don't want to micromanage because it's not effective use of my time. So that you do, in a way, need to trust. With trust comes accountability. You know, with empowering and giving someone as a leader the space to succeed, you're also giving them enough space to fail, I guess, in a sense. So that making sure that you have some accountability in there. Don't just give them, you know, free reign and say, you know, oh, trust your judgment, you know, go at it. There's also the need to have some systems and processes in place to make sure that you're holding them to account, and that really means, I guess, measuring them. So I probably didn't say at the start, if you've got any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Maybe Tim or Kyron, if you see something that's relevant, just interrupt me. If I'm looking to my left, this is where I've got everything set up. So, okay, cool. Thumbs up. Thank you. And exceed expectations. To put that simply, I like to do nice things. And it can be as simple as someone calls you, you know, and they're like, you know, how are you going? And you know, saying something nice like, oh, better now that I'm talking to you, you know, just little things that make people feel good inside. We also, you know, from the very beginning, as we were starting to build relationships, and in those early, I guess, first sort of 6-12 months, you know, as we had successes, and Belle talked about sharing your success, share your success with your team. You know, we always bought little gifts, and they were just gestures, you know, and people will say to, oh, you didn't need to do that. And that's exactly right. That's why you're doing it. You didn't need to do that. It's a gesture. It's about giving something that they, you know, as a reward, as an acknowledgement for their effort, that they maybe don't think that they deserved. And all of that helps you build, you know, build that rapport, build that relationship, you know, and in turn, those people are then more likely to go above and beyond, or potentially prioritize you. You know, if they're dealing with someone who's down the phone at them going, you know, when are you going to have that job finished, blah, blah, blah. And then they're also talking to me who's going, hey, everything going all right? Oh, you're having, yeah, no, did you get that, you know, gift? Look, don't worry if you need a little bit more time. You know, we're both operating with the same business, wanting the same things, but the way we've interacted with them is very different. And if you were that person, who are you going to want to call back? The person who's always nice to you on the phone, or the other one who's, you know, somewhat demanding, going, I'm the customer and I'm right, and you know, you need to give me what I deserve. So look, they're soft skills, I guess you'd call them, and most of you, I expect, will probably know all this stuff, but I thought I'd say it anyway. Oh, did I miss one there? Oh yeah, so acknowledge, praise and reward. So I've just talked to that. So communication, what do I do? You know, obviously we live in this world of social media and you know, 15 different apps to communicate. I think there's always a challenge with, you know, messaging and emails where you can't communicate tone, and unless you're like Belle and very eloquent and a great writer, you know, sometimes things can be misconstrued. So I have a habit pattern where, if possible, I will always try and call or talk to them first, and then follow up with an email, which is like a summary. So again, this is the accountability part where, you know, you don't want to just call them and then expect them to remember. So call them, have that chat, build that rapport, and let them hear tone and you know, warmth and genuine, and then follow up with the more formal email. I find that practice quite effective. I find I build closer relationships quicker by doing that. So if that's not something that you're doing, you know, give that a try. also asking what they need from me, and setting some expectations. One of the techniques, and this is a sales technique, obviously I've been living and operating in a sales sort of realm for the best part of 20 years, and it's very easy to I don't know, get in situations where, you know, you're talking to someone and you can just tell they're just like, they're looking at you, but they're not really hearing you. And often that disconnect has come from the fact that wherever you've gone in the conversation, or the pitch, maybe, has not really connected with them and their needs. I have a habit of trying to ask 10 questions of someone before I start, you know, pitching to them, or start, you know, sharing my information and knowledge. And the value of being conscious about doing that is that you really get if you've asked 5 questions and then that's probably led to 1 or 2 more, you've really started to get a lot of information to then direct, you know, and to know what the best way to, I guess, to pitch or to ask, you know, again, if you're building these relationships with property managers or agents, or even, you know, contractors. So starting with asking what they need, you know, what helps them do their job better, is sort of one of the things I start. But you've also got to clearly set expectations, and like I said, the important part of making sure that people know, if you're giving them the space to operate, you know, if you're giving them you know, the encouragement and the empowerment to sort of make decisions without necessarily consulting you for every single thing, because that's in their, you know, in their strength area, you know, where they've got the skills. You still need to clearly define, you know, what it is that you were expecting, gently, because, you know, I guess the more gently that you can do that, the better they're going to feel about what you're effectively giving, which is instructions. And I very much try to keep my promises. We all experience this. You know, there's nothing, I guess, more maybe disappointing than when someone doesn't do what they say they're going to do, and that might not necessarily be actually keep the promise of, oh, I'm going to give you this at this point in time. If you can see that you're not going to hit that particular deadline, then communicate that with them. And at least by that deadline, you've said, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not going to meet this deadline by this, and this. But that's the communication part. So as much as possible, if you say you're going to do something, do it. So empowering, again, what do I do? You know, understanding people's strengths and skills. Like I said, I'm not a builder, I'm not a property manager. So, you know, in acknowledging that they're in that, that they've got that skill set, you know, that's what I want from them. However, if they're a property manager, I won't necessarily want them giving me advice about, you know, accounting, for example, or what I should be doing with my building project. You know, unless they've got that skill set, you know, keep them in their lane. And that's why I say give clear flags for them to swim between. Let them make decisions. To give you an idea, with our property managers, for example, I say to them, you know, if what you need to do, if you've been out, done an inspection, or a tenant's called and something's broken or whatever, I basically give them $200 or $300, and I say, look, if it's less than $200 or $300, I don't want to know about it. You know, like, get it fixed. And you're trusting their best judgment. You know, it might be a towel rail's broken, or a light switch, or a light fitting, or, you know, like, just get it done. Like, I don't need to be called to do that. Firstly, it's not effective use of my time, but it's very much in their space to be able to manage that. However, I would then say, if it's going to be over $500, I want a minimum of 2 quotes and call me to discuss it beforehand. And then you've given them some very clear, flags, some very clear expectations of what you want. And, hopefully that then allows them to do their job without having to call you every, 10 minutes, but also know when you need to be involved, so you don't get into a situation where they've done something and you're like, you should have called me, to discuss that before you did it. And they're not perfect, right? People aren't perfect, and so if that you do get into that situation, just manage that message again. Make sure you reset those expectations. Obviously, you need to monitor and review and follow up and regular check-ins, and that's just good business practice. So that's, I guess, my little encouragement for you. Like I said, I expect most of you will know that stuff, but a little refresher, and I guess the things that I like to do in building my A team.